Hello there, and welcome to Star Wars Warts and All, a podcast where we talk about all the stuff we love about Star Wars, warts and all. My name's Will. Joining me again, my good friends Ben.
Hello.
Bill.
Hi.
And Chris.
I'll be needing my full payment now.
There's Cad Bane himself.
Was it?
I think. I don't know.
Maybe
It did better in
Batman Bane.
better in my practice run. But
Well, grab your big floppy hat and fasten your inexplicable cheek tubes, because today we're talking about Cad Bane.
here we go.
How's my asset doing?
My name is Omega. Who are you?
Cad Bane at your service.
Where are you taking me?
I'll take on any job for the right price. I've known you a long time, Bobo. One thing I can't figure. What's your angle?
So what is with those cheek tubes anyway? Like where do they go exactly? What?
There's a
like,
thing on his back,
yes.
I think. I don't know.
But his cheek hole? Does he have cheek holes? I don't. Like,
He does now, I guess. That's where the tubes must go. You had
Yeah.
them drilled. I mean, I assume it's for some kind of breathing, I guess.
Yeah, I would think.
You never
'cause
see him use them or anything.
There's a scene in one of the Clone Wars episodes where he dresses like a clone trooper and he doesn't have them. And I'm pretty sure his face
he
just
detached
looks like
them.
a normal Duros.
Interesting.
So
I didn't catch that.
oh yeah, that's right. In that arc we'll talk about in season 4, it's the same thing when he's in prison. He didn't
He
have
doesn't
the
have the
he
tubes.
didn't have the tubes on. I guess we chalk it up to one of those things that doesn't really matter.
Nah, yeah, it just makes him look unique and interesting. So, all right, let's get into who is Cad Bane. Well, we know he's a bounty hunter, obviously,
Yep.
by trade. And he's been active, I guess, since before even the Phantom Menace, all the way through, as we learned, Book of Boba Fett. He's still taking jobs, and that's what's that? 5 years after Return of the Jedi, or 6 years
Right.
after Return of the Jedi. So he's been in business for a long, long time, like I assume like 40 years or more.
And he was not a lot is known about him from prior to the Clone Wars, except for he was Jango's apprentice.
Yeah, there's mentions of that, but we don't even really know how extensive that
Right.
relationship went. But all right, he's a Duros. That's the type of alien, correct?
Yes.
With the blue skin and the red eye,
Even
the
I
big
knew
red
that.
eyes. He almost looks. They have kind of like a classic Roswell alien look to them, with the big heads and the
Yeah.
big eyes.
Yeah.
But he
I think
covers
they
his
make-
big head with that big floppy hat, which is
There's a Duros in the original Cantina scene, right? Isn't
Yeah.
there
There's
one? two of them.
Two of them.
yeah, they go
Yeah,
way
okay.
back. Mm-hmm. And he's always in his leather duster and dual blasters, like a true gunslinging Western cowboy, or I guess outlaw.
Yeah, I mean he's like pure Western. Basically.
I think that was the point, which I think is also why it's appropriate that, given Robert Rodriguez's past films like Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, kind of made sense that they would bring him back for his series. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Sure.
you can't have a series that had that much Western influence without bringing him in. I think.
Yeah.
As much as I was surprised when he showed up, it made too much sense.
I wanted to mention too, because as we get into these episodes, we'll see his little sidekick droid Todo 360 is often paired with him. That little hover droid. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay,
I have a question about that though.
What?
So
How does he
always
get
the
blown up
same-
and come back?
Is it always the
Yes,
same
exactly.
one?
Yeah, it is. There's a story behind that. We'll talk about it. He does
Okay,
blow up
okay.
at some point, and then he shows up again somehow. But it's
Yeah.
the same
I
droid.
just chalked it up to the the chronological jumps in
Yeah,
Clone Wars
I think
episodes.
it was kind of just a misstep because of how the timeline is so confusing. Oh, but that little droid is voiced by Seth Green. I think that's worth.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably don't know who Seth Green is if you're not 30 something, but so always him.
That's interesting.
One thing I did notice about Cad Bane's appearance with the hat and the whole Western style. So Cad Bane's first appearance in Star Wars was it 2009?
I don't know the year. It was Clone Wars season 1.
Yeah, season 1
finale.
And a year prior to that was the announcement of Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO, which featured the Gunslinger class, which has the exact same outfit minus face tubes.
Right, it
as
is a very
Cad Bane.
Old Republic looking style. Yeah, that's a good point. Does seem to almost kind of pull from that aesthetic. I also wanted to mention the voice actor. Fun bit of trivia here for Cad Bane is Corey Burton, has been since the beginning, including Book of Boba Fett, same guy.
Yep.
Although I feel like his voice changes, like they might change the modulation or something at times.
He's older.
Yeah.
They're making him sound older. Yeah.
Well, but
It seems less processed.
in the Clone Wars, it was actually, I feel like they made it a lot more mechanical. Almost.
Give him that cold, calculating kind of feel to him.
But this Corey Burton guy, not only did he also do Count Dooku in the Clone Wars series, he also apparently was the voice actor for Dale from Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers.
Really?
and Ludwig von Drake from DuckTales, both the old and the new series of DuckTales.
Oh, wow.
It's always fun to see what these voice actors are up to.
Yeah. He's got quite a range there.
And while we're talking about his voice, what is his accent? I can't put a finger on what exactly.
Star Wars.
It's like, I don't know if it's like a Spanish kind of accent or something. I can't tell. He's got something going on there. Some kind of unique, I don't know, accent. Well, you know what? Okay, I might mention something that I have a theory about his accent later on, now that I think of it.
Okay.
So let's get into his actual. What does he do? What do we know him for? His appearances are mostly in the Clone Wars because that's where he was introduced. But technically, his earliest appearance in the timeline happens in a Darth Maul comic, which we've actually talked about before. It's the Darth Maul miniseries titled Darth Maul from 2017. That's his earliest appearance, and then after that, he's in a total of 10 Clone Wars episodes. Is it 10?
So,
Or is it 10?
so do we think he was featured so prominently in Clone Wars because they needed someone to kind of replace Jango?
Well, I would say first of all, yes, but second of all, I don't even think 10 episodes out of the whole run is that much, to be honest.
No,
But he left a big enough impression to sell lots and lots of toys.
Yeah, I guess.
I would say it's a significant side plot. He's a significant side plot character for the Clone Wars.
Yeah, well, that's true, and it
as-
often is
as
the
like-
side plot, but
Yeah, as like the lead of the bad guy scoundrels, pretty much.
Right.
Which I feel like he took the mantle from Jango Fett because they killed him off so quickly.
Yeah, it's totally weird. And Boba Fett was still too young to be
Right.
the top guy, so they needed someone else, and he fit the bill. And then more recently, he showed up in the Bad Batch for 2 episodes, and of course the 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett. So that's all we have for him. So let's talk about what we've seen him do, what he's capable of. Starting with this Darth Maul comic. So, yeah, when we did that whole Darth Maul episode, Chris, I feel like you went into this story a little bit, but Cad Bane might have just been a passing reference at the time.
Yeah, I don't even know if I mentioned him by name.
Right.
And now I can't remember the exact circumstances. He was trying to track down the
the Padawan that was captured, right?
Yeah, he was
they were
helping
involved in that?
Maul pull off that capture of the Jedi Padawan who was held prisoner.
Yeah.
And basically they end up crash landing on a planet. Bane is working for Darth Maul, but he certainly doesn't trust him. He knows there's something secret and dark there.
Well,
for
Cad
Maul.
Bane's
Right.
also always in it for himself, which
Yes, it's all about the money, like definitely, and he doesn't trust or rely on anyone but himself, and maybe that little droid.
Pretty sure in every single episode of Clone Wars, he says that he'll do it as long as they triple his pay. I'm pretty sure
it's always about the pay. Yeah.
also he totally kills the droid several times, I think. So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's definitely once that it's very dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's not like he doesn't have a ton to do in this comic series, honestly, because he really is the side character. The comic is called Darth Maul for a reason. It's not about Cad Bane. He just happens to be there to help.
Right.
But he's already showing that he is one of the premier bounty hunters during this era. So this is like before even the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we get into the Clone Wars, his earliest... This is where things get confusing. Because the Clone Wars
The Clone Wars is all over the place.
It's not
so was
released in
this
sequential order.
was this intentional? Because I've always heard like, oh well, George Lucas loves prequels, but thinking about it, I wonder how much of it is just production schedules, especially with an animated feature. Like,
Yeah.
maybe you don't have an arc complete,
Right.
because you
That's probably part of
can't
it.
get the voice actors and the animation's not right yet, like finished yet. So, and if they have a schedule with, what was it on Cartoon Network? Back then?
At the time, yeah.
Like they have to put out what they have available. Like that's kind of my theory.
There's probably also just the fact that they have stories they want to tell, and if they look at the timeline, it's like, well, if we want to use this character, they need to, depending on where they're supposed to be at a certain time, they might have to go back to an earlier period just to make it all fit, kind of thing. That's what I think happened in some of the cases here. It was just like, well, we'll just have to say that this happened before such and such. And that's why there's weirdness with the droid suddenly coming back to life. But they do explain it away. They're also experts at that.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing here, so the idea is Cad Bane's first appearance was in season 1 of Clone Wars at the very end.
Right.
I think it was episode 22. But technically in season 2, episodes 1, 2, and 3 happened before that.
Right.
So that's where we're going to start with season 2, episodes 1, 2, and 3. It's Holocron Heist, Cargo of Doom, and Children of the Force. Basically, the whole thing here is Bane, this time, is hired by Palpatine, the Sith Lord. Not like Chancellor Palpatine. He's hired by the secret, nobody even knows about him, Sith Lord.
No,
and
but
he knows. Bane knows he's a Sith Lord, that struck me as interesting. Because
but did he use the name Palpatine, though?
No, well, he doesn't call him Palpatine. He knows he's a Sith Lord.
He shows up, he appears to him as Sidious, just like he does with the Trade Federation.
The Nemoidians, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's kind of like at that level of inner circle, I guess you could say. Which in my mind is just a big piece of evidence that this guy is the best. Like if Darth Sidious is going to hire a bounty hunter, he's going to get the best damn bounty hunter money could buy.
Yeah.
And who does he go to? Cad Bane.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if he also knows of his exploits with Maul some years ago.
That's a good point.
In the events of the comics.
That would make sense. Yeah. I mean,
give him a good word or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's parallel to Darth Vader going straight to Boba Fett in the original trilogy because, he's the best. So.
Right. And the job that he's hired for is to steal a Jedi holocron from the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. And and not only that, he has to get it opened because holocrons can only be opened by a Jedi. Because this holocron contains a list of Force-sensitive children in the galaxy, which is kind of like a frequent theme in Star Wars expanded media.
Yeah.
This idea of a list of Force-sensitive kids that they just want to steal.
And this arc kind of happens sequentially. So the first episode is all about him stealing the holocron from the temple,
Right.
which he enlists the help of another shapeshifter named Kato.
Right, a changeling.
A changeling. Yeah.
Or what's the species called?
I
drawing a
can't
blank.
remember.
Goodness. It's a Claudite.
Claudite.
Yes.
Yes, there it
Good
is.
one. That's why
We saw them in
keep you around.
episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Zam
Django's
Wessel.
little sidekick.
Zam
Sam
Wessel.
Wessel. Yeah.
That's right.
And this is where we find out too that Cad Bane had previously killed a Jedi Master.
Yes. Master? Was he a master?
He called him a because when she shows up at the temple, they call him Master Ord Innocence when
Wow.
they see him. So
Impressive.
I guess technically he was a master, which, I mean, right there, that tells you like Cad Bane has no fear when it comes to the Jedi. Like,
Yeah, he is a Jedi killer. That's kind of like, you know what? I think, say what you will about him being OP or whatever, but I think you need that. And we've talked about it when we make our stupid list of characters for the epic duels. That if you're not a Force user, you don't stand a chance against a Jedi. But
right.
maybe there are some guys who can.
Unless
and I
you're
think
Cad
that's
Bane.
that's all right. Yeah. You need
Wow,
that.
Cad Bane can't even shoot down a marshal in some backwater town on Tatooine. He just
true.
hits him in the arm.
Yeah.
and
He's a
he
lot
survives.
older. He's a lot older then, though. So.
Yeah. Don't get me started, Chris.
Don't think he was shooting to kill, but that's we already talked about that already.
Let's not start that.
Just ruffling feathers.
But this is where, as part of the plan of infiltrating the temple, as a distraction at one point, he sends Todo 360 into a room full of Jedi Masters
And
to
explodes
just
him.
explode. Yeah.
He explodes
blew him
him. There's no way there could be anything left.
Well, so apparently, the story goes.
Also,
was,
I wanted to go ahead. Yeah.
Well, just the Toto thing. Apparently, Anakin Skywalker later on attempts to fix him. This isn't seen anywhere. I think it's just mentioned in one of those like StarWars.com articles or whatever, where it's probably damage control saying, "Oh, well, he showed up again because Anakin tried to fix him and he escaped," or something like that. So they got that covered.
Okay.
But what were you gonna say?
No, right before this too. I mean, the whole way they're breaking in is Kato gets in dressed or disguised as Ord Innocence and gets access to the temple like shield system from a computer in the library. And I was just kind of thinking they should really consider like network security on their library computers. Like,
Good point. Well, how do you get that far though, unless you have access? That's the whole point.
well, yeah, but yeah. Anyway,
Well, I think Palpatine told them that he was going to help them out. So I wonder if he gave them something.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. Because when I
Maybe. It
heard that,
doesn't
I
matter.
thought, did Palpatine give him the body of that Jedi Master?
Oh, it's
yeah,
possible.
I guess no one really knows.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be implied that Bane killed him, but
Right.
it's not his last Jedi
Yeah.
that he's killed. So, yeah, another fun thing though, while we're talking about that changeling turning into Jedi, she eventually turns into the Jedi librarian Jocasta Nu,
Right.
Yes.
and gets into a little lightsaber fight with Ahsoka.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the old lady of the library
I like
has
that
a nice duel.
that scene where Ahsoka walks up and she's like, "What did you do with Master Jocasta?"
Madam.
And then Madam Jocasta, and then they start fighting, and you clearly see her body laying there on the floor, like right next to them. So I'm like, she clearly just didn't look like.
This is season 2. She's not the Ahsoka we know and love yet.
Yeah.
She's the
Right,
Ahsoka
right.
that we tolerate still. Barely.
Anyway, moving on from there, Cad Bane has to get a Jedi to open the holocron, so he ends up tricking Anakin and Ahsoka, or tricking Ahsoka to chasing him one-on-one, gets captured, then Anakin ends up having to open a holocron. I don't
Right.
get too
So
bogged
that-
down into the details here, but
Well, it's a great scene though, and it just made me realize how much I need to rewatch Clone Wars. I feel like I say that every time we record, like without fail. But there's just some great Anakin Vader foreshadowing here because Bane is torturing Ahsoka and puts her in like an airlock. He's gonna like launch her out into space, and Anakin is not having it. He's willing to do whatever it takes, including open up a holocron filled with a list of kids.
right.
To save his Padawan, which is arguably not the Jedi way. I don't know. What do you think? What is the right call? It's kind of like one of those what's that trolley
It was all
puzzle or whatever it's called.
It was all hinging on his assumption that he would be able to stop Bane afterward.
Yeah.
Right.
His arrogance,
His
got the best of him there.
overconfidence,
So, exactly.
But I don't necessarily see Yoda letting Ahsoka die in that situation either. So that's a tough
Right.
tough one to
That's
call.
where my head went too. Yeah. Would Obi-Wan or any of the other Jedi have played it
I think
differently?
they would have done the same thing, but they would have kept a more level head about it. They wouldn't have let their anger control them.
Right. And you can clearly see that he's starting to lose it here.
In fact, I've noticed a lot of times with these Cad Bane episodes, they revolve around Anakin's anger, especially in the larger arc in season 4 with Obi-Wan going undercover.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
by
a
then, I think
big point of the
Anakin's-
show, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anakin's anger grows over time, and as we get later in the seasons, it's more apparent. So that makes
Well,
sense.
I wanted to point out here, too, this has nothing to do with Cad Bane, but it's just good Star Wars, so I want to talk about it. Shortly after he saves Ahsoka, Anakin's like on the warpath. He's chasing down Bane on a capital ship that is exploding.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka has to talk him down and be like, wait, we got to get out of here. Like, we'll get another chance. And I think that's another, like, without her, he doesn't have that to tether him. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's all
Well,
that.
that was also a exact reversal of the previous episode where Anakin called her off while she was
right.
set on defending the planet they were on or whatever
That's
it
true.
was.
That is true.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Felucia.
It's the student teaching the master, or the other way around.
Yeah. Right.
I did want to say something else really quick about this episode. Earlier on, so Bane, they're chasing Bane because he goes after another Jedi Master. It's like Raldo or something. He's a Rhodian.
Ropal.
Rope. Yeah.
The Rhodian guy.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, he's part of the drag race, right?
He's
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's the one who has the kyber crystal that has the information on all these force sensitive children or whatever. And so Bane catches him and tortures him to death. Like,
To death,
yes.
yeah. With
Like-
without any care.
What?
Like, it's just
Watching Clone Wars, I realized this was pretty mature for an animated feature. They don't show
Yeah.
this kind of stuff anymore,
And
in,
that's
like Rebels or
totally.
anything.
I'm glad you brought that scene up because I wanted to talk about it too. They wrote it well because Cad Bane tortures this guy. The droids, on the other hand, these robots that show no emotion, are like, if we do this, he's gonna die, and he's like, I don't care.
yeah.
You're not. You listen to me. I tell you what to do.
Right. It felt just like straight up murder because they're like,
And-
this is going to kill him. He's like, yep, turn it up to 11. Here we go.
And then after,
And then he dies, and he's just like, well, looks like we need another Jedi.
meanwhile, and he's like, cut him down, and they cut the Rhodian down, and then his body just falls to the ground, and the droids actually sound like they're sad, like they're just like,
Yeah.
he's no longer functioning, and Cad Bane's like, all right, whatever, let's go find another Jedi. Luckily, there's 2 about to attack this ship.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of torture in the Clone Wars. A lot of torture.
Yeah, it's pretty ruthless at times. So anyway, in the next episode, Cad Bane starts snatching up babies.
Right from torturing a guy to death to stealing babies.
And I'm not
And then
joking. He literally does.
And
take
then he
2
brings
babies.
them to Mustafar, where Sidious is going to torture them.
That's a whole other thing. Sidious has like this like force sensitive brainwashing or some kind of slave conditioning, he calls it, on Mustafar.
Yeah.
for these babies.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how they get Inquisitors.
Yeah, I'd see. I don't know where
I
that's
think
headed.
that's the idea. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's making an army of Inquisitors was the plan. And he even mentions a secondary facility.
Yeah. So
Mexico?
It could be. I don't know. Like there's all this, all this like Sith secret experimentation was always there in one way or another. So
But it's
that's why
also
it
another
fits.
scene.
It does fit.
It's also another scene though where there's a droid who's like, "Well, the last subjects didn't survive all of these testing," and Sidious is like, "Do it." So like it's the same. It's like the same scene, but now it's with babies.
Right.
So,
Yeah. But in the end, so Cad Bane does get caught initially and leads them to the holocron, but it's just like a totally super Jedi-proof booby-trapped room that allows him to escape.
Yeah.
So he does get away. But it's always like, so here's the thing about Cad Bane. He does always get away. But first of all, as I said last week, he has to because he's a cartoon villain. They need to bring him back for the next one. He can't get killed, obviously. But also, like, he fights dirty. Like, he just uses really underhanded, nasty tactics.
Yeah.
So, it's not like he's fighting fair and winning. He's just, like, not playing by the rules. And that's how he manages to survive.
I mean, I think we see part of who he is a survivor. Like it's the things that he says to Boba Fett about looking out for himself, and I think Fennec Shan comes from that same breed of like, got to look out for myself because that's how I survive, and that's
And Cad Bane doesn't trust anyone.
right. So
He works with teams, but he's always in charge.
right.
And the buck stops with him, so to speak.
Well, if any of them turn on him, he'll torture them to death. So
Yes.
Yeah. All right, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, one last thing I wanted to mention here, just because it's awesome Star Wars stuff. There's literally a scene in this where I think it's Anakin and Ahsoka are stuck behind a door panel that's fried, and Anakin says, "Where's R2?" And then R2 just opens the door immediately. Just like classic R2 saving the day stuff. The Clone Wars is so good. It's just like such good Star Wars. I forget.
It's definitely good.
Because you get to see R2 and C-3PO in it. Like, just that alone is just, it's great. Anyway, so the next arc. So now we're jumping to where it gets really convoluted and weird. So, in Season 3, Episode 8, there is an episode called Evil Plans that is a prequel to the Season 1 first appearance of Cad Bane. And then it's followed up by a sequel to that episode called Hunt for Zero. So basically what we have is
the next episode in Season 3.
Right. Yeah. So the way it plays out, the 3-episode arc is Season 3, Episode 8, followed by Season 1, Episode 22, followed by Season 3, Episode 9. Right. If you want to watch it in chronological order, that's your viewing order.
And I will admit, I went and I've watched the entire Clone Wars series in chronological order.
Yeah,
flip it up.
Back and forth. At a certain point, it's not so bad. Like, it does level out at once you're in like Season 3.
Especially later on, it starts to just be in order. But
I thought Senate Hostage Crisis came before Hunt for Zero.
yeah, that's Season 1, Episode 22.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I'm so confused. There's for anybody that's listening that wants to start watching Clone Wars that hasn't, there is a list online of
it's on StarWars.com.
How to watch them in order without being confused.
Honestly, if you don't watch it in chronological order, it's not like it ruins it for you.
It doesn't.
It doesn't, but
I watched it all.
It was released that way.
Release order.
I've done it. I've done it both ways. I prefer the way with it as it is on StarWars.com, but you don't lose anything if you watch it the way that it's on Disney Plus.
Right. That's it. All right. So in this one, this time Bane is hired by Jabba the Hutt because one of the other Hutt lords, I guess they call him that, is Zero the Hutt, who's in captivity, or he's in prison in Coruscant, and he just knows too much. Zero the Hutt knows too much about the Hutts and their secrets and their dealings or whatever.
we didn't actually know about Jabba's involvement until the end of the episode because he was just hired to capture C-3PO and R2-D2, and that was the entire episode, pretty much. The Evil Plans episode.
Yeah. Right. As far as why, he was doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Which, again, he tortures both of them.
R2 and C-3PO. Yeah. This episode's fun because it feels like just like a classic old episode of like droids from the 80s, like that old cartoon. Not that I've watched a few of episodes of that, but it's just like the two of them just getting into hijinks. R2-D2 sneaks off to a literal spa for droids to get a massage.
Yes.
Like that's how he gets distracted.
Yes. Well, and they keep showing the contrast, like he's getting like massaged and oil baths, and then they cut to 3PO and he's getting tortured by Cad Bane at the same time.
Yeah. But in the end, so the whole plan is what Jabba needs is plans to the Senate building.
Right.
And Cad Bane's thought is that C-3PO must have that. I'm assuming maybe it's a connection because he knew of Skywalker and, he kind of researched the Jedi that he's gone up against in the past or something like that. And that's why he chose these particular droids.
Well, I think he knew that he mentioned something about him, 3PO being always with Padme all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And then the most beautiful part is at the end of the episode, he just wipes their memories so that they don't even remember the whole thing happening.
Yeah.
And that's that. So then with the plans to the Senate building, Jabba then hires him for the follow-up work, which is to basically create a hostage situation where they could leverage a bunch of senators against the release of Zero the Hutt. And this is I feel like we mentioned this. I mentioned this episode before, right? Because it's the Die Hard episode.
It's the Die Hard one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Cad Bane, and this is his first appearance. He's basically, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. The Die Hard bad guy. Hans Gruber.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Oh, that was sad.
But so this is what made me think. Is his accent maybe a little bit trying to do that like German-esque or I don't know what kind of accent that's supposed to be.
I always contributed it to like evil, or not evil, but like the bad guys of spaghetti westerns.
Well, yeah, like I don't know, Pancho Villa type or something.
Evil German. Evil German.
Or evil German.
It's not like super German though. I don't know how to describe it. It's just unique.
Yeah.
It's a good voice. Don't get me wrong. I really like his voice. This whole thing. It's got a good vibe. But yeah, so Bane takes a bunch of senators hostage, including Padme. There's a whole bunch of lovey stuff with Anakin and Padme because they love each other so much.
And this was the reason why the episode went on for so long is because Anakin didn't have his lightsaber.
Correct. Right.
Because he gave it to Padme to prove that,
because love.
Because love. Yeah. He's like, I'm giving this to you because I love you.
It's actually pretty nice because he says like this. Obi-Wan told me that lightsaber is a Jedi's life. This is yours, and he hands it to her. I mean, if that's not some schmaltzy George Lucas love, then what is it? Or what is?
Yeah, and that's why it was like Die Hard because he had no weapon.
Right.
He was the only like fighter
on the inside. Yeah,
on the
who
inside.
Knew what was going on? Right.
After Cad Bane exploded all of the guards at once.
And this is season 1. They are brutal, like just killing people left and right.
Yeah.
In cold blood. A senator tries to walk away, he just shoots him in the back.
Well, and there's that scene, and my daughter was watching this with me, and I kind of cringed because after he blows up all the guards, like one of them's crawling out, and he's like, "Help me!" And Aura Singh just turns and shoots him in the head.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man. That's
and then in the end, so they're successful. They get Zero to be pardoned by Chancellor Palpatine. He gets released, and as sort of an escape plan, he leaves all of the senators with Anakin, just grouped up in the middle of this room with tons of like laser bomb tripwires surrounding them. So they basically have no escape. And then he still tries to detonate it before he leaves, just for funsies. He tries to blow them all up anyway, even like as they escape.
Well, it's like the rooftop in Die Hard, where it's actually wired to blow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they escape because Anakin's there.
Right.
So then we get to the last part of this with Zero now safely returned to
Zero,
the huts.
the most annoying hut of them all.
Yes, by far. Because, well, number one issue with Zero is the fact that he speaks English.
Yes, yeah.
Which is,
That's your biggest takeaway on Zero
and then the fact
Hutt?
that voice is also very annoying. But
I mean,
so they bring Zero back to Nal Hutta to reunite with the rest of the Hutts, but they're not too happy with him because, you know, he's like basically holding what his information he has over their heads. So he's just thrown in a different cell this time under the protection of the Hutts. But who breaks him out? Nobody knows?
I don't like the fact that I know.
It's Cy Snoodles, guys.
Cy Snoodles.
His lover.
That
Cy
was the
Snoodles.
most.
That's right. Oh, I forgot about
The
that.
lead
was-
singer of the Max Rebo band on Jabba's palace from Return of the Jedi.
With the long mouth with the lips on the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. Yep.
That
Yeah.
stupid looking thing.
Who's actually not as she appears.
Yeah, so apparently they had a love affair that has gone sour, but they're trying to, I guess, make amends. I don't know. So she breaks Zero out of her cell and runs to his mommy. Literally, that's where they go. They go to his mama. And this episode has one of the only appearances of Quinlan Voss,
Yes. Yep.
because he teams up with Obi-Wan to hunt Zero down.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like we should talk about Quinlan Voss just because I don't know anything
Briefly.
about him. I feel like there's nothing there, though. There needs to be more with this guy.
So Quinlan Voss has had he had a bigger role in the EU.
Yeah, the old like comics from the EU. It's like the Dark
Yeah.
Horse comics. He had a big role, I feel like.
Yeah, and he has really had nothing for this canon stuff, but he was in the book. Oh my God, what was it called? Where he falls in love with Ventress as they go.
There was a whole other story arc that they turned into a novel. It was called
Yes.
Dark Disciple, maybe?
Yeah.
Is that the one? Yeah. I've been wanting to reread that, actually, because it's a neat story. But my theory is that Quinlan Voss has not appeared yet in the Mandalorian era because they're waiting to cast Jason Momoa. They need to get him confirmed first. He would be so perfect for this surfer dude Jedi role.
He's kind of an unorthodox Jedi, right?
Yeah.
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 He was undercover or something.
He's like the yin to Obi-Wan's yang, or the other way around. I don't know what yin yang means. I don't know.
Kind of reminds me of what's his name from High Republic that you love so much.
Elzar Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of that. Yeah, I bet he's bedded some women in his time.
They're definitely the lethal weapon, Obi-Wan and Quinlan Voss.
That's funny, yeah. Obi-Wan does say he's too old for this.
All right. But this is a Cad Bane episode, so we should
Right, so what does
continue
Cad Bane have to do with it? Once Zero is sprung from the Hutts by his lover,
Cy
Cy
Snoodles.
Snoodles, they hire Cad Bane to just go kill him. So enough is enough. This guy's not getting away. Go kill Zero. But Cy gets to him first. Snoodles. We should call her Cy Shoodles. Because she plugs him.
With
Turns
That's
out
right.
breaking her heart was unforgivable. So she ends up killing him, and she gets the bounty in the end too.
Hell hath no fury.
But okay, so after she does the deed, Bane shows up too late, realizes that he's out of a job now. The contract has already been fulfilled. And that's when the Jedi catch up to him. So he now is faced off against not just Obi-Wan Kenobi, but also Quinlan Vos, 2 against 1. And an epic battle ensues. So I think I could see having reservations with one non-Force user against 2 Jedi.
Jedi Masters.
It's a good fight, though. It kind of works, right? He's got 2 blasters. He's a good shot. He's got the rocket boots. He's got flamethrowers. He's got that electric thing that he could do with by touching you, and it electrocutes you.
He's got a lot of Mandalorian type stuff. I feel like.
Yeah. And Toto 360 helps out too.
I feel like before some of this stuff became like quote unquote Mandalorian, it was just bounty hunter stuff, like flamethrowers and
that's true. Yeah,
wrist computer things, and then
right. Yeah, just buttons on your wrist.
I feel like in maybe in Rebels it became like kind of a Mandalorian,
more of just a Mando thing. There might be something to that. Yeah. Well, especially like, as Ben mentioned, if you go back to the High Republic, the game, that's bounty hunters were just all about having. Oh yeah, the Old Republic. Bounty hunters were all about having like those gadgets and gizmos and that stuff.
All right, so he gets away.
He does get away. Yes, he does.
Does he kill Toto again this time?
No, I'm pretty sure.
I didn't get a chance to rewatch this one, so I can't remember all the details. But
no, I think Toto just escapes with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that leads us to his last Clone Wars arc, which is an indeterminable amount of time later. It's all the way in season 4, though. Episodes 15 through 18.
It's actually in order. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a 4-episode arc. Ah, okay. That's why I was confused.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch all of this, though. I actually remembered that it's told in a book called Clone Wars, Stories of Light and Dark.
Yes.
It's an anthology book of short stories that basically just retell story arcs from the Clone Wars. And one of them is this one, told in first person from Cad Bane's perspective, which is kind of interesting.
Interesting. Did you read it?
And I listened to it because the voice actors do the readings of these stories, which is pretty cool. So this one is read by Corey Burton. And then, of course, I got wrapped. I had to listen to the one read by Sam Witwer as Darth Maul. And there's a couple James Arnold Taylor ones on there, reading as Obi-Wan. It's a neat book. It's a neat audio book, I should say.
Is it? So all the stories are in one book?
Yeah. It's just a random like sampling of story arcs from the Clone Wars.
Yeah. I'm going to have to check that out.
Actually, I also listened to Matt Lanter. Anakin read it's like his side of that Die Hard story. The Cad Bane. So Bane's not in it much because it's mostly just Anakin sneaking around. But anyway, so, right. Cad Bane. Back to him. This arc is crazy. It's pretty crazy because Obi-Wan fakes his death, changes his face.
Swaps.
Yeah, it's like Face Off.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Face Off. I did not pick up on that.
Yep.
He changes his face to look like the supposed assassin of
and his
himself.
Voice.
And his voice, of course. So that he can infiltrate a plan to kidnap Chancellor Palpatine. Did I get that right? Is that the basic rundown of this thing?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it. They get wind that there is a plan to kidnap the Chancellor, and they're trying to infiltrate.
The one guy who knows something about it is in prison.
Right.
Moralo Eval.
Yeah.
he falls in that whole, savage oppress, and this guy is a bad dude, so his name has got to be something close to evil.
Yes. Evil.
He is some kind of architect behind the plot to kidnap Chancellor
Right.
Palpatine.
That's it.
And then they fake Obi-Wan's death by paying off a bounty hunter to kill Obi-Wan, or an assassin to kill Obi-Wan, and he thinks he does it, and then Mace Windu and Obi-Wan show up to this guy to pay him off, and then they pretty much kidnap him and force him to record his voice so they can change Obi-Wan's voice.
Yeah, Obi-Wan just shows up with this guy's face, and he's like,
Yes.
here's your credits. By the way, I'm you. I need your clothes.
And,
so he gets... and the crazy thing about this, because you alluded to it earlier, is that Anakin doesn't know that it was faked.
Right.
So he thinks his master was killed.
Yeah, in order to fool Count Dooku, who's, obviously the one in charge of this whole thing, they have to make Anakin believe that Obi-Wan is dead.
It's the classic, we needed to make it believable story. So
Yeah, right. So anyway, he infiltrates the prison. He ends up getting the help of Cad Bane to escape from prison, and he gets some help from Boba Fett and Bosk, because they're also on the inside, so to speak.
Right.
And he does, in the audiobook, since it's told in the first person, he does mention Boba a few times, and he kind of has a soft spot for the kid, because Boba's a child at this point, and says that he owes his father, which we've mentioned they have that history. And he has respect for Boba that he doesn't seem to have for anyone else.
Right.
Which is interesting, considering he gets killed by Boba Fett at the end of his life. It's kind of a shame.
it's poetic.
Yeah, it rhymes. So they get out of prison. They meet up with Count Dooku and find out that this Morala Eval character basically built a bounty hunter tournament chamber.
He built the cube
right.
from the 1997 movie Cube.
But this is like literally Cad Bane wins a best bounty hunter tournament in this thing, because they just face off against each other to figure out who's going to be on this team of elite bounty hunters.
Yeah. So that plot is interesting though, because Obi-Wan is still pretending to be this bounty hunter, and they're all forced to go into this giant murder cube that have different rooms with different booby traps, and each time Obi-Wan is the one that solves the puzzle to save everybody's life.
Yeah, he's always the first one out, kind of thing.
Right, and it makes Count Dooku suspicious, and that's very important for the rest of the arc. But the big thing is Cad Bane was suspicious of Obi-Wan from the very beginning. When they were breaking out of prison, Cad Bane punched him a couple times because he hesitated to shoot a guard when they were escaping from the prison. And so this entire time, Cad Bane has absolutely no trust in this. I forgot what his name was.
Rako Hardeen, that Obi-Wan was pretending to be. He has no trust in him. He's just keeping his eye out for him. He tried to kill him a couple times in the cube. Right.
And at the very end of that, after they make it to the very end with the last challenge in the cube, Obi-Wan completes the challenge, and then Moralo Eval tries to kill Obi-Wan by basically making the floor fall out from underneath him, and Cad Bane saves him.
Right. Yeah. And because of that, I guess that's the justification. Cad Bane is given the leadership role for this Palpatine capture job.
Right.
You know what you call it? Kidnapping, I guess. Because I think the whole plan was that Obi-Wan as Rako Hardeen was supposed to be the point man, but he doesn't get that position because Dooku doesn't trust him either, frankly.
Right.
And because Cad Bane is the best. Quite literally. So then, I mean, whatever. They do the job thing, and they get caught. Because there's a lot of this episode that actually falls back on, like, cool lightsaber battles between Anakin and Dooku and stuff. I think in the last part of the arc, Cad Bane gets captured pretty early, right? More or less. It's like halfway through the episode.
They pull it off, and because they were using illusion tech to change themselves to look like Senate guards, and they're able to actually get Palpatine, but something goes wrong, and Obi-Wan ends up shooting one of the bounty hunters, and he flies off and explodes. So that Mushroom Man guy, he flies off and explodes, and
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they capture Cad Bane as he's trying to get away with Palpatine because they're able to figure out the illusion tech, and they kidnap him. But that was because Count Dooku didn't show up with to take Palpatine,
right?
Because he had bugged all the other bounty hunters and overheard Obi-Wan talking to Mace Windu.
Yeah,
so he never showed up.
Right. Yeah, Dooku caught wind of the plan, essentially. And it all falls apart. So, end result, Cad Bane is put in jail again. For real this time.
Right.
Because we don't see him again.
And he knows, he ends up finding out it was Obi-Wan, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably is not a big fan of that guy anymore.
Well, no, he never was.
To begin with, yeah.
Nobody who crosses Obi-Wan is a fan of his.
And then, after that point, Cad Bane is a mystery for a long time.
Yeah, he doesn't show up in any of the... So this was in season 4. There's 3 more seasons of Clone Wars that he doesn't pop up in until... I mean, arguably you could say the Bad Batch season 1 is like an extension of the Clone Wars, and we know he shows up there, finally.
Yeah.
But there's a large gap here. He obviously gets out of prison. This could be where that whole Boba Fett... taking him under his wing, and they end up having a falling out, or whatever happens there could happen at that point.
I feel like there's an even larger gap between Bad Batch and Book of Boba Fett too, though.
There is.
Yeah.
Also, I just had a thought. Is he going to show up in Kenobi?
It's possible.
Maybe. I don't know.
I
don't know what he would do, though. Who knows what they're going to do with that
I think
show.
the only Clone Wars character that I would like to see show up in Kenobi is Hondo Ohnaka.
I can see that, yeah. Anyway, Cad Bane.
Are we going to talk about the Bad Batch arc at all? Or
I feel like we just did. I mean, not too long ago, but I didn't rewatch it, I'll be honest.
Lama Su hires Cad Bane to go take Omega.
Right. Yeah.
This is
basically
that's it.
It's him versus Fennec Shand, because they're on opposite sides of the
Fennec Shand.
Omega.
Is this after she shows up in Mandalorian? Is this the next appearance?
The next appearance, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously after that, another big gap, and then he shows up.
Also,
in Book of Boba Fett.
We should note here too, though, that this is where Toto completely turns on him and leaves him, though, too. Finally.
True.
After all the abuse that he's put up with over the years, literally being blown up.
He decides to help Omega. Yeah.
My name is Omega.
Poor guy. Poor droid. And then he shows up to just shoot a marshal in the shoulder and die. That's what happens next.
All right.
But there's got to be, I mean, how many years are we talking there?
There's a lot of time. So there's a lot more Cad Bane that we could see.
A lot more.
Because he doesn't even show up in the comics, like the War of the Bounty Hunters.
Right.
No,
he wasn't in that.
Yeah,
he wasn't in that. He didn't show up on, Vader's ship to go after Han Solo.
Right.
There's a lot.
But in Book of
on.
Boba Fett, he's clearly holds it against Boba that he worked for the Empire.
So I was thinking about that quote. I think it had to do with making the people of Freetown not help Boba Fett by saying, "Hey, listen, Boba Fett used to work for the Empire. The people that used to treat you guys like crap in this town. Just remember that.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like when he said it, he had like venom in his voice. I think
it sounded like disdain, like he really held that against Boba.
I think that was setting up something that we might see at some point where he was mistreated or
I think
jailed by the Empire or something.
Right. Or he realized, I don't know.
Because that could set up whatever interesting story they want to tell about him during those gaps.
Right.
Yeah.
But so here's where I wanted to make a very large proclamation. So in all of this, like researching Cad Bane, watching Book of Boba Fett, I feel like his scene at the end of the Book of Boba Fett is basically the definition of Star Wars. And I want you to change my mind. But here's where my mind is on this. Like, he was there working for himself. He tells Boba, like, you should have just been looking out for yourself or something along those lines when he thinks he's about to kill Boba. Because, like, in his world, it's him against everyone else. We've already talked about it earlier, but I think what this does is it shows the crossroads that Boba ended up taking a different turn at when he escaped from the Sarlacc.
Yep.
Because he could have kept going down this same path, but then he had this rebirth, ended up with the Tuskens.
Yep.
Finding out, he learned from them the meaning of like family or tribe, which goes back to our whole like Star Wars is about family and and then we saw that in Book of Boba Fett. We're seeing like the Pikes, looking out for themselves, all the other factions looking out for themselves, Bane looking out for himself versus Boba and Fennec and Din Djarin, who was there till death if he had to, and like and all the mods and like everyone together as a tribe, prevailing over evil. And so I think that whole scene at the end between the two of them kind of sums up the view of Star Wars that we have, where it's like that we've been talking about, where it's like the many are like sticking together as a tribe. Boba Fett triumphs over like this guy who is out for himself, basically.
Yeah. Like it's definitely, you're definitely right, because you look at Luke Skywalker, right? Everybody says Luke Skywalker is the most powerful Jedi ever. He's the biggest whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the only reason he was successful in all of the movies that he was in was because he was willing to rely on his friends or get the support of his friends or, it was always.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was the other thing that I forgot I wanted to mention. Like, now we're seeing, Grogu comes back to the Mandalorian. They're together. Like, he saves the Mandalorian. They're together as a family and they're triumphing. Versus Luke, who's now all by himself, and eventually that leads to ruin. Later on, and so like this whole thing, all of this stuff ties together in this theme, I think. And I just had this epiphany thinking about the Cad Bane versus Boba Fett scene.
Yeah, there's definitely something to that, I think.
Yeah.
It was finally the death of Cad Bane that I had been waiting for a very long time.
Oh, please. Well, the bottom line is there's plenty more Cad Bane to come.
There is definitely. Yeah. But I think that death scene was like the micro version of everything else that's going on in Star Wars.
Yeah. I wouldn't argue against that point.
It's like the whole conversation with the Mandalorians where they're like, oh, the Jedi aren't supposed to have attachment. And Din's like, well, that's like the opposite of our code. We're supposed to stick together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is the way.
And so
this is the way.
I think we're going to see more of that as Star Wars progresses. And I kind of like that because I kind of like getting away from this whole like Jedi old ways thing.
Right.
Anyway,
I mean, getting away from the Force. You mean?
No.
Boring conversation anyway.
I think that pretty much covers Cad Bane because there isn't a lot other than the few appearances in Clone Wars, the one appearance in Bad Batch, the one comic appearance, and now Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, that's it for now. But I think now that he's made his live-action debut, you could expect to see him again.
I mean,
In
he's
some other medium.
he's
Probably Bad Batch season 2. I mean, he's still.
really
They've
popular.
established him in that series
Yeah,
too. So.
yeah. Depends on how long that goes too, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be
And when that
released
is- oh
in
man, we got such a drought now. We haven't.
Yeah,
We really
yeah.
gotta wait until May 25th for more Star Wars. Now.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
No new stuff. Yeah. Oh my god. Better start coming up with some ideas.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, what is next week's?
We're talking about something Star Wars.
Got him. And maybe this time, Chris will participate.
Sorry.
His audio will be very easy this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Tell your friends about us. And we love you. Because I got nothing else
That
to
was
say.
that was
Cad Bane
weird.
line?
I was
don't
talking to
remember
Jacob.
saying
I
that.
was talking to Jacob. Clearly talking to Jacob.